it can happen to anybody.
Right.
And
Right.
it even happens to people that's never experienced it, didn't think, and even in seasons where
They don't
there's
believe
no
in it,
rhyme or
just-
reason,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, boom, it hits you, and you don't even know why till you discover, oh, this is depression. And it was funny because in that same season is when I learned about it, because it hit me at the same time, and you reached out, and I'm like, dude, I get it, man. And it's the worst kind because it would almost be easier if we could put our finger on it. Well, I'm depressed because this thing just happened, and I'll get over it. But when that thing didn't happen, it's like I feel depressed and no reason
Yeah.
why.
So how do you fix
Then it's
that?
like,
How do you
oh,
solve
shit.
that?
Brothers and sisters, we can't thank you enough for all your love, your support, and your faithfulness. It's been brought to my attention, if you really want to do something to bless us, to thank us, apparently simply hitting the like button on YouTube would be more impactful than what I ever knew, let alone subscribing to us on YouTube if you're not already. And then over on Spotify and Apple, please leave us a review. All of your listening and your comments to us mean the world to us. And do us a favor and just hit like on YouTube and leave us reviews on Spotify and Apple. And we're going to continue to serve you with our whole heart. Thank you so much.
What's up, guys? So,
Hey, thank you. Just start out like this.
Yeah.
hey, what's up, guys? How are you guys doing today, Matt, Josh?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good. I just spent a lot of money on cologne.
He
He
smells
did.
like it. All the way from over here.
I bet that's
That means
fucking
it's
almost
worth it.
believable because him and Meg just walked in my house and he's got like a bottle of Tom Ford samples and then God knows how many more bottles he bought, already adding to the collection. I stopped counting at like 12 because
Oh, wow.
usually when we search for a fragrance, I'm the guy, I usually want to find the one, you
Right.
know, but he's decided to become a collector. But anyways, they came in like smelling like 8 blended fragrances, and so he's holding bottles up like, hey, smell this. I'm like, I already can just from you guys walking in.
And now I don't.
Yeah, like
I don't. There's only certain ones that I blend, but like the people at the Saks Fifth Avenue always want to like spray it on me, and I'm like, no, I've already got
Right.
a cologne on. I don't want to smell like fucking just over the top. But you still, I think, just sampling them, like you can't get the smell. Like it will tend to fall on you.
Yeah,
And
like
Megan was
and
like,
it-
yeah, they were just spraying her down, and she's like, fucking hell yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be different too? Like if it's on your wrist or like behind your ears, like it's supposed to somehow. I don't know if it's probably bullshit. But it's supposed
Well,
to
no,
smell
it
different.
does. It mixes
it?
with your pheromones. So
Oh, okay.
it's one thing when you spray it on clothes or a tester strip. Even those tester strips that you wave, it gives you a sense of the fragrance. But when it mixes on your neck, your skin, your wrist with your own pheromones, it creates its own unique scent.
Okay.
And that's why you may love how something smells on a swatch, but when it mixes
Right.
with you may love it better or less.
right. So what's
the
your
important
favorite?
part
Here?
of
What's
it
something
is,
that
like-
you really love?
Oh fuck! Everything from Tom Ford, all his fragrances I like, and I like them because they use like minimal amounts of notes. Notes are like the fragrance in them,
Right.
which allows you to like blend and create different scents.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and they're very authentic. So there's one that's no longer manufactured, but if you go to like more high-end stores, they have like sample bottles of it left if you ask for it, and it's called Tobacco Oud, and it smells, once it settles, it smells kind of like a fresh lit cigarette.
Right.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that doesn't smell right, but it's like
Sure.
it
Hard to
captures
picture for
like
me.
it captures a very precise moment that I think only smokers would understand.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it is very and his scents are more mature, so it's like, you know, you're not going to smell like something like super fruity. They're
Pebbles.
more settled. Like he's got a fragrance that actually smells like cold steel. It's called Metallic.
That's
And
kind
it
of cool,
smells like-
actually. Kind of like that.
Yeah, he's got a cherry fragrance, a peach fragrance, and they're like, it just seems out the box to me. But there's a lot of, basically, yeah, dude, it's come to the point to where what I want for Christmas this year is like a big shadow box that lights up to where I can put all my colognes in it.
Nice.
And it's just gotten to the point that, it's definitely an obsession. So I have to chill sometimes.
Little pun
and
there,
just
little pun
realize.
there.
Yeah,
Obsession.
that's your favorite
Oh,
one.
hey, by Calvin Klein. Obsession.
And you can get that at your local CVS now.
You totally can. You can get like Versace and all types of shit at like CVS, which is why I go to different places because I don't want to smell like every other dude.
I mean, he drives all the way to Columbus, which is just an hour and a half from here, but specifically just to check out cologne fragrances.
That
on
and
his
Jenny's
off
ice
day.
cream. Yeah.
And
But-
Jenny's ice cream. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. And most people wouldn't think of looking at you like, oh, this dude's a fragrance and cologne connoisseur. But it is weird to me because it's like you're going out every week and buying a new tattoo machine.
Right.
To me, when you cologne shop, you're looking for the one that's going to be your everyday, your brand, your scent, your smell, right? Versus using a different machine every day. Nothing wrong with that. This might be the old school of me just thinking like you find your fragrance. And I have different for the seasons, like what I wear in the fall and winters, different from spring and summer. But there's basically two I've decided on. I like that you're going high end or more rare because I also have always been the dude where I don't want to smell like 7 other dudes at the club last night.
Right.
Right. And that's why I'll do a mix. One, whatever I order, again, you can't buy in stores now. But 2, it's a mix because I'll put that on my neck and then I put my beard oil in, which is like a tobacco and vanilla. And with the cologne mixed with my pheromones and my beard oil, then when I give someone a hug, most people are like, wow, you smell great. What is that? And again, it's already my own unique concoction because I can't tell
musk.
anyone. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I like it. I'm just wondering if you're going to get to the point where, like, out of all 86 bottles here, this is my one.
Well, and I've got like a heavy hitter that's just great. But with me and colognes or perfumes, it's like if I wear one for more than 3 days, I just can't smell it anymore.
Yeah.
And although
yeah.
I want people to like enjoy it when I walk past them, I too like to smell it, so I just will rotate. And I've got seasonal colognes and stuff now, so like I just went and shopped for like fall and winter.
Yeah.
So now I have some more of that collection to where like if I'm rocking one and I'm really digging it, I'll wear it till I can't smell it when I'm wearing it anymore, and then I'll switch it up to something else.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Speaking of seasonal,
Yeah.
are you guys very familiar with like, seasonal depression?
I'm familiar with like hearing about it and knowing about it, and you know what? Maybe have had a spout in it here and there. I'm not sure. Like I've done therapy a lot when I was younger.
Right. I bring it up
I'm
because
familiar with people that do suffer from it.
yeah, I feel like obviously it's going to depend on where you live as well. So I bring it up because I'm hearing a lot about it around me. As it's getting colder and like we've got really long wet winters, and so like people that have like no depression or really even anxiety and stuff will actually be affected. When I moved to Oregon, I was told that, or like if you've got depression or not, you're going to get it through winter eventually.
Wow.
And then many winters came and went and nothing happened. And then my wife ended up getting it, and she's never had any kind of depression or anything. But as it just gets cold and wet and just gross outside, like it really affected her to the point that, that's why we talk about eventually moving probably back over in that area where you guys are at.
Yeah.
What are the winters like there? Like, do you guys experience, or do you have, like, Matt, are you even familiar with that term, or is that more of a...
I am.
Okay,
I
yeah.
am. And, even though this is different than Oregon, people get seasonal depression because we have, the
get a lot of
winters
snow,
here.
right?
And, oh, yeah. And and it'll get, below 0 here, and which I love. It's weird to me, the people that are born and raised here, and every winter they bitch and complain about the cold.
I know, right? Like they weren't expecting it.
as if they weren't expecting it, and it's so weird to me. Like, but yeah, I even remember. I think the first time I heard about it was a specific artist that worked for us, and he said but it was hard for me to receive it from him as it being an actual thing that kicked in come November, because this dude battled depression all the time. He just had a different reason in July why he was so depressed, but come November, well, now he's definitely got a pass, or definitely has a reason, because it's November, it's seasonal depression time.
Right.
And even though it may have been a real thing, depression was a real thing for this dude in the hottest summer, in the spring or the fall. So it was harder for me to take it as a real deal from him. But since it's the first person that ever told me about it. But since then, I have heard it being a real thing.
So when you say taking it from him as a real deal, did you not believe that he had depression? Because I've met people who, they're like, have you tried just not being sad? And it's like, oh, and I've also, those same people, it'll hit them at some point. I've had people come up to me and be like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you were going through, because I've suffered through depression the bulk of my life. Yeah. Some people, I think, because it doesn't happen to them, it's easy to think that maybe somebody's playing the victim, or, hey, man, we all get down at times, right? But it's so much more severe than that. You have to look at somebody that seems like they have everything they could ever want. This famous rock star, Chester Bennington from Linkin Park, still commits suicide. Seems like he has got, So were you like a non-believer in depression, or more so didn't understand where he was coming from because he always had it?
I think all the above, meaning there was parts of me that was a non-believer, depending on my audience, meaning who's crying wolf or not, right?
Right, because people do. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it bothered me because some of the folks that battled depression seemed to simultaneously, even though they'd bitch and complain about it, also not really want to get undepressed, or it would seem like they would fight to stay in that place, whether that's true or not, because then, eventually it hit me, and I did get to experience what depression was like and felt like. And so it did give me more perception, because when you are depressed, then you may logically think in your head things I could do or want to do, but right now you just don't even fucking want to do any of it. Even the things that could maybe help or be better, the desire for you to want to even try goes out the window, which seems like it can keep someone stuck in that place longer.
Absolutely. I've heard people say, like, I don't want to die, but I just don't want to exist. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to commit suicide, but I just want to kind of go lay over in the corner, and you guys can just walk over, just step over me, Right. And I was thinking today, I wonder how this correlates into slow season. We've talked about how we don't really believe that there's much of a slow season if you know how to do things a certain way, the right way, I guess. But it really lines up, right? It's getting cold and wintry, and all of a sudden it's slow, and maybe you're not motivated, right? Because so much of this is motivation, right? And all of the people that we've spent all this time relationship building, we could be reaching out to,
right?
Do you think that there's some? I really do. I mean, obviously, I'm a tattoo artist. I don't know, but I really kind of feel like it is, and I wonder if some of our listeners, if you live in a place that's warm most of the time, do you notice it much? Do you notice for yourself, or your coworkers, or just your family members? Like, I wonder if there's more depression seasonally that affects the slow season.
Yeah, And I believe it's got to be connected. I even mentioned on a couple episodes ago when we were talking about your dream clients, how we can create or block things energetically, meaning energetically someone may want more clients, but if they're in a rut of cold, drab, dreary on their insides, they're depressed, then energetically that's not calling forth more. They may in their head want more, even if it's more joy, but if energetically they are in a place of the complete opposite, you're cultivating more of that, you know.
Yeah. It'd be
So it's
interesting
got to
to
be
do.
connected.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in like a tattoo artist study. I mean, an artist study in general, because artists, just as in general, we're all so volatile. Most of us are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Already, we're already starting out like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just something I was thinking about today.
You know, so like I just Googled seasonal depression, and it's called seasonal affective disorder. So SAD is the acronym for it. Acronym
okay.
is the right word, right? Like when you take
I believe
like,
so. Yeah,
yeah.
I think.
And I mean, it kind of makes sense because like if you think about like a millennia ago when people were hunter gatherers, I know some certain religions like had different beliefs about when winter came. It was like the death of stuff. So like a lot of people had feared winter. And
Winter is
were we
coming.
going to make it through? Like the earth was dying, only
Right.
for it to cycle through, you know, the season and then spring come again. And I think that like just being human in general, I know that we're supposed to get a certain amount of vitamin D directly from the sun to us and through our eyes. Matt, you know, you said sun gazing at certain times is real good for you to sun gaze and it doesn't burn your retinas. But right when the sun begins to set, you can look directly in it
Really?
and kind of soak up some of that vitamin D.
When it's setting or rising, the first really 20 minutes of the sun setting or rising, when the sun gets completely orange right before it's going. And how you can check it is it's the last 20 minutes of its setting, you should be able to stare into it, look away, and not see spots. If you look away and you're seeing spots, it's still too early. But the last 20, 15 minutes, the sun going down, you can stare directly into it, and it's not hurting your eyes. You don't see spots, and it's one of the most healthiest ways to just fill up with vitamin D straight through your soul, straight through your eyes.
Wow.
And that's the term sun gazing, and
I would
do it.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's really, really healthy to do. And you early risers can do it when the sun's coming up.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have it so bad here that a lot of people actually have like lights in their house that are vitamin D lights because we have basically the sun will be just like shadowed out like by the clouds. Sometimes for just weeks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like London. You know what I mean? Like I have to take I take vitamin D pills. You know, most people do. Like it's that important. You know what I mean? So definitely curious when we move eventually over that way, how much it'll change. Now, I don't have near the depression I used to have because I have so many things going on in my life physically that are not just, that are not in my head. I don't want to say depression is just in your head, but I have so many things that are very need my attention now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, totally, man.
So I'm curious. I'm just curious as, like I told you guys before we started. So also for the listeners, I'm really happy to say that I'm feeling really good. So I've taken my second cycle of Keytruda, which is an immunotherapy, which basically instead of pumping me with poison, it ramps up my immune system, my own immune system, which basically allows my immune system to shake hands with the cancer. So it recognizes the cancer and how to wipe it out without killing all these other cells.
Right.
It's just going after the cancer.
Nice.
I take this once every 3 weeks. Very minimal side effects other than being insanely tired sometimes. But I've been, for those who have been following, I've been in a wheelchair. I was in pain 24 hours a day in my back, down my leg. I've had 7 days now, totally pain-free. I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
Man.
So much so that I'm wanting to like try to go grocery shopping and not take the wheelchair.
Yeah.
But I'm so afraid of it triggering the pain again, right?
Yeah.
So I've been pain-free. To wake up pain-free the first morning was mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
And then it just kept happening. It just kept happening.
Yeah.
So I still get nauseous and I'm still insanely tired, but I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to being able to tattoo. And my God, talk about depression, 100% the opposite. Bring it on. I just want a tattoo so fucking bad,
Man.
So yeah, so like to kind of update the listeners, things are going pretty good for Josh here, man. Pretty stoked.
Would
So
you say
good.
being ripped of all the things that you've taken for granted? Because I'm sure you're just like me. I've taken tattooing for granted. I
Yeah.
take fucking breathing for granted. I take filling my
Right.
gas tank for granted. Communication, just name it. The list is vast. Things that I take for granted. So would you say that like maybe being ripped from all those things has
Absolutely.
actually could be like an ailment for your depression?
Absolutely. And I've even noticed once I was pain free for like 3 days, I started taking things for granted that quickly. It was that fast. You know what I
Isn't
mean?
that
I started
crazy?
like focusing on other things and like, I've been like really chill with Nikki. Like we don't fight much. We never really have. But like the cancer thing has really made me very aware of everything. And so I've noticed that it's weird to say, but it's like the better I was feeling,
Yeah.
almost the I don't want to say I wasn't nice, but I was just like reverting back to old ways so fast.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's really interesting.
And did you notice it, or did she notice it and bring it up to your
I
attention?
noticed it.
Oh,
I
cool.
noticed it and like reeled it back in. And then I asked her about it, and she was like, "Yeah, I've noticed, but you're going through a lot of stuff. She's the most supportive woman in the world. But it's really amazing how Hip said, he's taken this and that for granted, and it's really difficult to tell somebody to don't wait until you have cancer or whatever.
Right.
It seems so almost fruity, like live every day to the fullest and all that. But man, I'm telling you what, people will say, Josh, you're the strongest person I've ever met. And my answer to that is you don't realize how strong you are until you have no other choice.
That's right. That's right.
And it's kind of jaw dropping what something like facing death can do to you. Stage 4 cancer, metastasized in different parts of your body, non-curable. You will look at shit a different way.
My God. Yeah. Katie, my wife, was actually battling some pretty hardcore depression.
What a great example. What a great example.
And, obviously she had real reasons to be sad. She had just lost her own sister who was my age, so we'd been going through a lot. But then just this huge depression hit her to the point where there were days where she didn't know that she even wanted to still be here. And she would tell me like she was having dark, scary thoughts, and I was glad she was at least confiding in me, but they started to scare herself, almost like she started getting feelings like just to go end this deal. And then when she got sick and her life almost lost her life, it shook up so much in her. She got free from a bunch and decided, I think I do want to live a little more.
That's so interesting. I would love to sit down and talk with her because it is so unparalleled with what. So I started having these dreams that I was being strangled all the time, like every night. Someone was trying to strangle me. And it got to the point to where I would wake up in the middle of the night so sick that when I was sleeping, I wasn't feeling that sickness. I was asleep. I was gone. And I started equating that to death. And I was like, well, if just being asleep feels like that, not being here at all, having no consciousness whatsoever, it sounds pretty peaceful. And so I had to talk to Nikki because I was like, Nikki, I'm having some thoughts of like, I kind of want to go to sleep and not wake up. I don't want to physically get a gun and kill myself or pills, but I kind of just don't want to wake up. And, that's a bad place to be,
Man. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want anybody to experience that, but sometimes I wish I could give it to you for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And be like, check this shit out,
And
My
know
God.
what? Maybe getting, when we share, freedom comes from the listening of others sometimes. So maybe this is an important topic. It is an important topic to talk about and discuss. But like everything you're talking about, it reminds me, and I'm just been sitting here like stirring and thinking. And like a lot of times when I really dealt with depression was like inactive addiction. And I don't know if it was like a similar case of like just hitting a bottom. Mine was self-destructive and I forced it upon myself. Yours, you really didn't have a fucking choice in the matter. Katie really didn't have a choice in the matter. But I think it seems to be some kind of relating theme of like desperation. becoming a gift, because I used to want to take myself out, and this is going to sound like real judgmental or mean or whatever, and it's not meant to be that way, but it's the only way I can convey what I'm saying. But I was too much of a pussy to fucking shoot myself or cut deep and bleed out. You know, it was like, I always say I was like, I loved life so much that I was scared to live it. So I would prefer to live numb, right? Just sedated in a mind state. You know, if I'm high on the floor, yeah, totally step over me and don't fuck with me unless you're going to get more drugs, you know, because I was scared to feel and to live. And like, once I got to a certain point of like desperation and realizing that like, well, you don't have enough nuts to like jump off a building or to hang yourself. And each time you try to like put one in you that's going to take me out, and I wake up from it, it's like, well, I ain't even good at that either. So basically like, all right, let me pretend to fucking try this thing out. And I tried it out, and it actually started to work and to like show me that there was like a different light. And you know, it's funny because I bought my house 2 years ago, right? And it was in the state of the pandemic. George Floyd got murdered. All the politics with the presidential debates was going on. Like the world was just on fire and at a standstill. And I bought my house. Everything's great. Got tons of money, paying my mortgage. And like I would wake up and do my daily routine. I would just think, I'd be like, man, if I just died right now or took myself out, I wouldn't have to like make a car payment. Yeah, people would be upset and like miss me and stuff. But really, like they would get on. I just signed this thing to where if me or Megan dies, we get a certain amount of money. So she's good. She'll have that. She's got her own business. She'll find her true love. You know, all these things were going through my head. Yeah. And I'm like, this isn't me. You know, like I haven't experienced this for a long period of time. So I found out particular people to reach out to, and not just people that I know that suffer from depression, because like I didn't want people co-signing my shit. You know, I wanted people that haven't experienced it necessarily or normally weren't in that state of mind. So I reached out to a buddy of mine. He happens to be a pastor at a church. And I was like, dude, I'm just feeling depressed. And he's like, man, I've locked all my guns in my safe, dude. I've been thinking about putting a bullet in my head. And I'm like, what? That's fucking crazy. So then I'm like, well, maybe he was the wrong person to ask. I know who I can ask, the fucking happiest person on earth, Matt Clemmer. And I talked to him and he was like, dude, I've been feeling like taking myself out too. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And, you know, I came up with like this super woo fucking theory, which may be true or may not. But because, you know, I'm a human, I want to figure things out. I want to understand why it happened. Because, you know, like we say in recovery, thank God we're not all sick in the same areas at the same time, because then we couldn't grow from each other's experience. So like something you struggled with, you know, thank God that you're going through your struggle now, because if I, knock on wood, happen to get cancer, I've got someone I can lean on that can help guide me through it. And, you know,
as I've reached out to you for other problems that you've been through, and you've been there for me.
Exactly.
Multiple times this has happened already, actually.
Yeah, so there we have a therapeutic value because we're not all at the same place at the same time. Something I can be grateful for. But when I heard that, you know, and I talked to some other people like my parents and stuff, which, God, I tell you, I love my parents to death and I'm so grateful for them. But if I take anything slightly scary to them, like they just fucking, oh my God, are you okay? You need to go do this. You got to do this. If I call my mom and I'm clipping my toenails. Right. But, you know, I'll call my mom and I'm clipping my toenails and she'll be like, well, be careful. You know, I've heard of people like clipping their toe and then like getting an infection, losing their leg. Yeah, you know. Yeah. But it was weird because it was so foreign to me because it was so far in my past that like, and you know, I do things constantly. I stay in like journaling, step work, stuff like that. Well, not journaling, but I was doing other things that were self-serving to me and helping me grow and stay spiritual and practical in my natures. So it was just foreign to me. But I will say that like it didn't feel good having that cloud around me for like the month or two that it was there. And it would just come and go throughout the day. And then it would just be back, and it was like, oh, you're here again. I thought we'd moved past this, and it wasn't. But what it did cause me to do is it caused me to take action. And the action I took was to start journaling every day about any feelings, about anything, even if like what I was writing was not even English language, if it was just scribbles. But in my mind, I was just doing the energy, just following suit. And that helped. It brought me out of it. It gave me some deeper clarity into like, why I may act this way when this happens. And it allowed me to like reverse engineer my feelings and my behaviors and my belief systems about certain things. So
was that just the act of writing it, or once you write it, do you actually read it back to understand more about yourself, or it's happened simultaneously? Whatever's coming out of you as you're writing it, you're gaining clarity and understanding in the process. You don't spill it all out, then go back and study what you wrote.
I mean, it's a bunch of everything. Like, yeah, 9 out of 10 times I don't go back and read it, but like, I don't know, something small and minute that I turned into a mountain that's actually a molehill. I'll have feelings about it and I'm just enraged. And instead of like acting out and causing harm on someone else, I'll just fucking write about how much they suck ass and they're stupid for the shit they did. And then
Like you write that down?
Oh, yeah, you stupid motherfucking cocksucker. God damn it, fucking Megan fucking said this and did this, and the fucking kids are being stupid as shit and blah, 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 blah. And then, like, eventually, like, that anger, I'm hitting the punching bag and it's getting out, and then I get moments of clarity through that, and I start realizing, like, well, is it that big of a deal? Like, if we look at this in the eyes of the world and everything you've done and as far as you came, is it that big of a deal? No, not at all. Then why did I act out like that? I don't know. I don't fucking know, because they shouldn't have fucking done that and they knew better. But you didn't communicate that how are they supposed to know that they should or shouldn't have done that? And it just starts leading into more things that are always pointing back at me. I'm around depression. Like my stepdaughter has it, and she has to take medication. Like at our house for this past year, we have a lockbox in our kitchen where anything sharp goes. So anytime I want to use a knife or scissors, I have to put a code into this box, turn the key, and unlock it. And it's just been like that.
And this is for the entire family, or is it geared towards you specifically?
It's for my daughter.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my sister, she's been depressed her whole life. Body dysmorphia, throwing up, pulling her hair out because she's too ugly. And she's tried to replace that with, religion ultimately. And
always searching for something to answer, to fill that hole.
Right. Like I learned early on that there is not an exterior solution for an interior problem. Yeah. So now, are there things that can help and aid that we can use as tools along the way? Yeah, I believe so. I'm not a fan of kind of like what Megan has her oldest daughter doing now. And ultimately, maybe it's just a stepping stone to something greater, but I'm not a fan of just putting pharmaceuticals on shit, Yeah.
Well, one thing I'm glad you're bringing up, or what I hear you describing, is a form of depression that shows up in our lives and we can't even put our finger on why. Like, man, I don't know why. My life's great. Everything's going good. You had just bought a new house. You got plenty of money. And all of a sudden you're overwhelmed with just feeling yuck. And it was foreign to you. Eventually you're like, is this what depression is? This is that thing, depression. Oh, geez. And it seemed to come out of nowhere. And I'm depressed and don't even know why. I don't even have a reason.
And I don't know where you're going with this, but it's making perfect sense, because I think I really felt real depression because I was at a state where I shouldn't have felt depression.
Right.
My relationship with my wife was good. My kids was good. With you was good. We're doing the podcast. Aisle 9's doing great. Like, I'm doing tattoos I like. I shouldn't be depressed. Like, if you look at it scientifically and logically, there's no reason to be depressed. So where the fuck did that come from? So that's, an addiction. Yeah, of course I'm depressed. You ain't got shit. You steal from people. Fucking, you're sticking needles in your arms. You're robbing. Duh, of course you're going to be depressed.
Right.
Yeah, I always wondered that too. Like, why would I, before all this, I'd be like, why am I so depressed? I used to I used to have this banister in my ceiling in my old house, and I would literally picture tying a noose to it only to my wife or my kid, fucking find me in the morning. But like my life was amazing. Like what the fuck,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, and that's great. And I think it's important to bring that up because no one, meaning like it can happen to anybody.
Right.
And
Right.
it even happens to people that's never experienced it, didn't think, and even in seasons where
They don't
there's no
believe it,
rhyme or
doesn't-
reason,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, boom, it hits you, and you don't even know why till you discover, oh, this is depression. And it was funny because in that same season is when I learned about it because it hit me at the same time, and you reached out, and I'm like, dude, I get it, man. And it's the worst kind because it would almost be easier if we could put our finger on it. Well, I'm depressed because this thing just happened and I'll get over it. But when that thing didn't happen, it's like I feel depressed and no reason
Yeah.
why.
So how do you fix
Then it's
that?
like,
How do you
oh,
solve
shit.
that?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I still don't know why that happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that I'm grateful for it because it helped me be more compassionate towards people that actually deal with that lifelong. But then also it feeds like my egotistical side, like the apathy side of me. And it's like, well, I figured out journaling, so why don't you just fucking journal? That's what I did. And it's
Right,
like, that's
right.
not fair for me to fucking gauge.
But you are saying that's the step or the action step you took. You didn't know what else to do, and it did help,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
right.
yeah.
It could
like,
help somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But likely
maybe.
they have to find whatever their thing is, Like I'll discover stuff all the time that works for me, but maybe it's not going to work for you,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm super, I don't know. I'm fascinated by it. I'm just fascinated by all of that. Like, it doesn't matter how successful you are in life because we're also driven
Right.
and we coach that, we teach that, but that doesn't mean that that's going to save you from that. If you have
Right.
depression, like, and then for me, I would go to professionals and they would just be like, well, of course you're depressed. You've got 19 jobs or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you need to calm down. Or it's like, no, I'm not going to calm down. I'm doing this part, but it never seemed to correlate with me.
Yeah.
And it does run in my family. It runs, unfortunately, I see it in my kids already,
Yeah.
So I don't think it always runs in the family, but I do think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to step back because I'll see something in my kids and I'll be like, why would they think like that? Oh, you know what I mean? I'll remember when I was that age, I felt that same way, So
Yeah,
I do
man.
find that finding something you love, tattooing, get lost in that. So at least your mind is occupied, right?
Yeah.
For me, because like I used to get like severe migraine headaches, and no matter how bad the headache was, if I would just start the tattoo, it wouldn't go away, but it would be I could get through it. You know what I mean? But it's like watching paint dry. If you're not doing anything and you're just like, I'm in the worst pain in my life. Oh my God. So like putting yourself into like, some sort of a hobby or preferably work. I guess not really preferably, whatever. Just putting yourself all into something, music, journaling, prayer, whatever works for you. You
Right.
know?
Well, and you're bringing up because I believe everything's connected, and it's a combo platter. Just like when depression hits, you can't maybe nail it down to that one thing, that one reason why. It could be a combo platter, and in my limited experience, addressing it also was a combo platter. What do I mean by that? Well, we've done an episode on mental and physical health because we realize it's all connected. So from a physical standpoint, even nutrition wise, when I would fall into a depression, I would even notice that. I would just notice I hadn't been drinking water like I normally do. And when I quit drinking as much water every day, all of a sudden, but it's over time, shit, my body started to change. So I just know, you guys will be big on exercise. We've heard even from Brenner and different people, because Brenner used to battle depression, but now him getting up and going and running and exercising helps his mental state.
That helped me tremendously when I was a runner, when I was a cyclist. Oh yeah, tremendously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you brought up prayer and stuff. So I'm going to list off some things that I believe is resources for all of us. One, so you just mentioned journaling. And this isn't an either or. This could be a combo of it all. But journaling, which I still have yet to do, a lot of people do. Exercise, right? Spiritual growth, whether that's prayer or something that's really big these days and always has been, is meditation, right? And there's all kinds of apps out there for meditation, then leading on to breath work. And guys, I'm so intrigued by breath work. I got so many friends into it. Gurus have been offering me sessions. I haven't done any yet, but I've learned enough to realize there's different types of breath work, almost depending on what you need. There's breath work to take your anxiety away. There's breath work to totally change your frequency, your state of being, to lift off that depression. There's just so many different, there's breath work sessions where they go deep and you can heal inner childhood trauma and let shit go, because apparently the body holds on to trauma. Something happened to you when you was 6. Man, Josh, when you had to witness that dude, you know,
Jack in the Box and all that.
Yeah, all that. Your body holds trauma. And apparently breath work is a huge way to tap into it and actually let some of that trauma go once and for all. So again, we're just naming off things that can help, from prayer, meditation, breath work, exercising, drinking
Diet.
a shitload of water.
Diet,
nutrition.
Josh.
Yeah.
Diet.
Yes.
Eat blueberries.
Right. Well,
Try
you mentioned
another
that
apple.
right now. You mentioned that you believe everything is connected, and I don't know if you saw my post on Facebook earlier about quantum entanglement. Are you familiar with Are you familiar with that at all?
A little bit.
So,
But man, that's
very
so
recently,
vast.
literally within the last few days, the Nobel Peace Prize was given to these 3 men who studied and found out that, in fact, quantum entanglement is 100% real. They can prove it. And basically, short answer is that everything is absolutely connected. Are you familiar with like Schrodinger's cat? Like the cat that's alive and dead at the same time until you see it.
It goes into that whole, if a tree falls in the forest, does it even make a sound? If
So
no one's around to
basically,
hear it?
you don't. This is the theory of this, and it's been again proven, which is incredible. This is incredible that this has been proven. It's almost like so everything is connected, but it's not happening until you visually see it, right? So like if I flip a quarter, so like I know a quarter has heads and tails. If I just look at it, I can say, yes, that's heads. I know that the back is tails because I'm familiar with the quarter. So those two sides of the coin are entangled.
Yes.
But if I flip the coin, catch it, and cover it with my hand, I know there's a coin there, but I don't know if it's heads or tails. So according to this theory, it exists in both states simultaneously until I visually see it.
That's
and once I see its heads, I know that the other side is tails. This basically, without me being anywhere near smart enough to explain this, I'm already doing a poor job. It does seem to show that we are likely living more so in a simulation, like atoms vibrate and there's spaces between the atoms, and these spaces basically allow us how we perceive life. You know, when you're a kid and you stay up late talking with your friends and you're like, what if you see the color red totally different than I see the color red?
Yeah.
Well, it basically is saying that's happening. We simply collect data through our eyes and we perceive things in our world, but they don't make sense necessarily to the other person. But there's almost like a filter that when it goes to them, it does make sense to them in their reality.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And again, look it up. I'm not explaining it well, but it's fascinating. And when I was in the hospital and suffering from delirium, where I was seeing demons and all these things, I experienced this stuff. I basically experienced seeing, gathering data different than I normally do. So I'm looking outside and I'm seeing dinosaurs existing with humans. I'm seeing birds fly through the hospital with their wings go out of the hospital room. But it was extremely real, not like out of the corner of my eye, right? I experienced life like maybe you could be or somebody else is. And I told Nikki, I said, everything is connected.
Yes.
I remember telling her that. And so I'm just fascinated that it was proven, you know?
Yes, it's so good. Yeah, my God, that's so
We
good.
don't know. We don't know so much. It's insane.
That's right. Oh, I love that, Josh. Yes. That's why our old guru friend from Ireland says, run from conclusions, boy, like Neo in the
Yes.
Matrix, run
Yes.
from them. And,
The
in
Matrix
simple
is way more
terms,
interesting to me now.
no kidding. Some people consider it a documentary,
Exactly. Yeah.
But in simple terms, like you said, so if you're experiencing depression, I think the trap is for us to immediately kick ourselves, beat ourselves up. Fuck, this sucks. Fuck, I suck. Why am I feeling it? Right? And basically, the trap is for you to take that on as your identity. Like, that's who you are. That's what you are. You are depressed.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You've
okay,
perceived
but don't
that
put
and you've owned it.
come on, but don't put a period on there, because if the coin that's in your hand right now is depression, that's just one side of the same coin. You simultaneously are also joy, even though right now it feels and only seems like depression, because that's your reality right now. The good news is you've got just as much joy too.
You know that it's entangled on that other side of joy.
Entangled. And if you're going to declare that you are something, don't just call yourself half of something,
Right.
and
It's not possible.
It's not. So you're not just depressed, and I would even say you are depressed as much as you're being depressed right now. But that's not who you are. That's a symptom of how you feel and what you're going through. But even if you want to say you are depressed, you're also living your best life. You have both at the same time,
Right.
even though it doesn't feel like it. So that you can love yourself and give yourself some room instead of just judging yourself like, this is it, put a period on it. Shit sucks right now. Even when it sucks, is to understand there is more to you.
So much more. And I think once we realize that, the entire world opens up for you, because everybody that goes, a lot of people that go through depression and stuff, they'll be told, try this, try that, open up to this. And they'll kind of just try it. And they're like, it didn't work. Yeah, you don't know. It just didn't work for me. And it's like, you gotta give it more. You gotta be open-minded to it. I never in a million years thought I would give two shits about any of that stuff. I am fascinated by it. And I believe that it's been a huge part of why I'm alive. My doctors are always telling me, I've mentioned it before, it's been over 2 years. Originally, statistically, 4 months is where I should have passed. People that I knew that had the same disease have passed. I'm not superhuman, but I live one day at a time, and I stay positive, and I am thankful for the day that I have.
Yes.
I don't know. It's a lot to get into, but to me, the entanglement part really resonated with me, and I'm really excited to see as we learn more where it goes.
So good.
Because hopefully it can teach people, like, oh shit, there is another side. I know there's another side to that coin. I know for a fact. I just need to see it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Another thing that helps me, boys, is either making a new vision or getting reminding myself of like what I'm even doing any of this for, or the shit, go back to revisiting all the shit that still lights me up, even in this dark cloud I'm under. These are the things that used to light me up and should again, because I almost feel like, like they say, idle time's the devil's playground or whatever.
Right.
When we ain't up to doing a whole lot of shit. When there's nothing coming around down the pike or on the horizon, and there's no pressure on me to show up, because sometimes when you're depressed, if other things are happening, you almost, it's the art of distraction, will almost put your depression on the side for a minute just for you to show up and deliver on this thing. You can actually have a good night and have fun and forget about your depression for a minute. Don't worry, it'll wait on you. It'll still be there if you want to pick it back up, right? But I've noticed, like, because there are things we can sign up for, be a part of, or have certain events look forward to, people in our life that we hold on a pedestal, like we want to, whatever, that can pull me out of it it's another form of losing yourself in the service of others. When, and so that's when I'll try and like even dream big again. Like, what's something crazy that I don't even feel like I could pull off in the shoes I'm wearing right now, but that would be epic. So again, back when Josh was talking about your mind, boys, I'm convinced no struggle on this planet will ever give you a harder time than your own mind. Right?
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you brought up something that, at least in my experience, and just a side note, I feel like this is something that like we could do another topic on and possibly bring like a professional in to talk with us.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm trying to explain it to the best of my ability, but I'm a tattoo artist.
Well, and all we have is our experience, so that's our truths, And I always try to share off experience because that's all I know.
Exactly.
But I think it would be fun to have a professional kind of guide us and help inform us and show us like where we may be teetering off of like,
really break it down.
Because I really want to understand depression more. But Matt did say something very profound that has worked time and time and time again in my life, which is service work. Anytime I can't get out of my own way and I'm beating my ass, when I get into the service of other people, like it has just tried and true has proven itself time and time and time again. Most recently, we had a TBM dinner in Cleveland. And Matt had orchestrated it for like all the alumni and just, anybody, bring a friend and we're going to have some time. Well, I was going through a thing and was just fucking infuriated. Then I curbed my rim on top of it. Talk about fucking lack of gratitude. But, he met me at the door. And he came into the bathroom with me and he was like, leave that shit out here, man. Like we got, students in here. And we just need to, it's about them. And I just couldn't fucking shake it, man.
I literally physically was brushing dirt off your shoulders.
Yeah. And I wanted to, but I also, man, I tell you, Pityville is a very fucking cool place. And it just felt so good to be there. And I was almost like, yeah, fuck you and your happiness shit. But I went in there and, he had messaged me and I didn't realize it, but the food started coming. He was like, get up and mingle with people. And I didn't do that. And I walked over to him and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just seen your message. And he was like, it's not too late. Well, everyone was eating and we ate. And then he stood up and, he gave a toast and acknowledged me in that. So like here he's being of service to me and giving me an acknowledgement in a room full of people, which instantly I had to get up. I didn't have to, but I had to, if that makes sense, right? Like it was no obligation, but I still had to, and I did it. And in doing that and just speaking and being of service to other people and acknowledging people that played a part in my life and making me a better human, I completely forgot about that shit and I had a good rest of the night. And it's funny because I've experienced service work time and time again. Me and Megan will be on the fritz and I'll fucking, go fucking somewhere and see someone and give them $50 or fucking help someone move a washer and dryer that no one else will help, or little shit. Go and sit with somebody and explain to them, clean up something, do anything to get me out of my own head. Share when I go and attend these meetings and stuff,
Right.
And it always works, but like in the mist when those feelings hit or the depression hits, it's like that's the last thing I want to do. And it's funny because like a couple years ago when my oldest daughter was really experiencing this, I listened to a lot of Jordan Peterson and he's kind of blunt and frank with shit. And he, was talking, he was saying it just not as in an elegant way as like we do in recovery about being of service to others. That's beautiful. That sounds heartfelt. It sounds great. Jordan Peterson's like the purpose of life is suffering, and all we're doing is suffering. And your purpose in life is to make someone else not suffer that much for a certain amount of time, being of service, right? So I'm listening to this. My daughter's talking about taking herself out. And I'm like, look, man, life's tough. It's all suffering. And your job is just to help other people not suffer much. And she's like, well, if life's just suffering, fuck it. And I want to kill myself even more. And I was just remember putting my foot in my mouth and I'm like, fuck, I botched that whole shit up. But it does make total sense because it's about suffering. You know, we're built for struggle or we wouldn't be here. We're supposed to endure things, and we're supposed to see each other enduring things and then feel compassion for that, and then lend a helping hand to them to help them and struggle with them or make them struggle less. When you go and do the dishes for your mom when you were a kid, you're helping her struggle less, even though you didn't want to, and she had to tell you 20 times, I love you, Mom. But I was still making her struggle less.
Yeah. And I would take it as far as to that I wouldn't put a period on the end. The meaning of life is, just the struggle thing.
Well, that's JP. You got to take it up with him.
Comes, with the territory. Welcome to the human experience. I'd take it a step further and believe in that. I think the meaning of life is simply to enjoy it.
Right.
In the midst of the suffering, right? And, our children are always teaching us, and if they're not, they're reminding us. And I've got them in all different ages. I got 18-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Well, my 3-year-old's been a great teacher to me the past 3 years because, it's so weird because we talk about, and parents talk about, raising kids and shit and consulting, helping them. But really, when it comes to the lessons of life, us adults could really consult with my 3-year-old, because if I look at my 3-year-old and most adults and just ask the question, who walks in more joy most of the time, she's got everyone beat. So if we're talking about life, who should we really consult with? The person that finds more joy. We could take a page out, right? And so she'll remind me when I get up in my head and I'm start worrying about shit, and she's butt naked, streaking with Play-Doh everywhere, not giving a fuck, but is enjoying this present moment like the world is her playground. And those are always great reminders that I need to fucking get on her page, and half the shit I'm worrying about isn't even happened. It's all illusions, and it has nothing to do with this present moment. I've heard we worry about either the past that doesn't exist no more or the future.
The triangle of self-obsession.
That's right.
Fear, anger, resentment.
Yeah, man.
I fear the future. I'm angry about I'm angry about the past, or I resent the past and I'm angry about the future.
Interesting.
Say that again.
Triangle of self-obsession is fear, anger, and resentment. So I fear the future, I'm resentful of my past, and I'm angry about the present. So, yeah. It's and in the center of the triangle of self-obsession is
that's great.
Self-centered fear.
So back to another trick, because let's say we're in that, because you're like afraid of you're fucking carrying a load of shit from the past and arbitrary fears for the future. So obviously you can't enjoy the present. Your present's all fucked up with all this shit, in your head that you're carrying unnecessarily. So again, it's funny, Gary Vee, that video that was viral, Gary Vee was asked, like, give me 3 words of inspiration. And he was like, you're gonna die. Right? Because he realizes, like, hey, as long as no one I've lost or loved is lost or sick right now, life's all right. And he's got a point. Josh brought it up earlier. What is it about us with human nature is when we experience something real scary, real traumatic, we almost have to lose our life or our freedom and be locked in prison for us to get the reality check of everything we are taking for granted. I remember the first time I got locked up, whatever perceived problems I thought I had, now I don't even have the freedom, and I'm in this jail cell, to go out and face them. And I wanted nothing more than my freedom back, to have the luxury to go face all those so-called problems. But why did I have to get locked up to really appreciate it? Right. Recently, a lot of you listeners may not know, but I found myself in the hospital bed for a day with some heart issues. And kind of like you said, Josh, like, you wish you could just download it or give it to everybody, just 20 minutes of it. That one day in the hospital bed a few weeks ago was such a gift to me. And it helped me see my life more clearly in certain people in my life. There's even, a certain person I had to let someone go. I'm never about firing folks. It's the hardest thing. HIPAA will watch me. We'll know someone needs to be let go, and I'll eventually do it 2 years later, right? But, when I was given the gift in the hospital bed, emotions were removed. I was just able to see this gentleman for who he really is, parts of my life for who they really are, and was able to just make the right decisions and move on with it and not be battled down with all these emotions and worry and meanings and attachments. And it just led to complete, simple freedom. Okay, we're going to turn left here and right up here. Doesn't mean anything other than that, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. But, and so
I'm
another,
glad you got a lesson out of that, you know?
oh my God, yeah. And so another trick that I'll do, I don't know if this is, you know, I kind of thought everyone will do this, but I'll pretend in my own head different things. Like if I'm feeling real bummed, and Gary Vee does this too, to motivate himself, he'll almost imaginate like one of his kids getting real sick or his wife dying or something in a car wreck or losing something that he's got right now, to in his head realize, I don't want to take my wife for granted. I don't want to take my kids for granted. I'm going to go home tonight and spend extra time and really hug them because he played out in his head that he just lost them. He'll do those things in his head to help change perspective versus waiting on those things to actually happen. And I take it a step further. So like me even practicing not taking anyone for granted. Let's say my wife. And let's say we're in the kitchen and I'm just giving her a normal kiss. But then I'll stop and pretend that, let's say, reincarnation is real and that her and I have found each other every life in past lives, right? And here we are again. We found each other again and we're closer to getting it right this time. And part of what I missed the past times was taking this moment for granted, to where when I lost it all, I asked to be sent back so that I could find her again and really soak it up and not take that little kiss in the kitchen for granted, not take my daughter for granted. And I'll pretend in my head that I've been sent back and this time I'm doing it right. This time I'm getting it. And what am I getting? The glory of this present moment. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll do something sort of similar, like every time I've got a scan coming up or anything with cancer related, we'll walk up to the cancer center and I will stop and I will just kind of be in the moment. I'll see the Willamette Valley Cancer Center sign and I'll think of the before and after. I'll think of like, what do I feel like right now? I don't know what's around the corner. I don't know what's coming, but I want to just take this moment with my wife who's with me now, because with COVID stuff, now they're letting her in. And just take that moment, kind of like what you said, to get this moment right, because I don't know what's coming next. And I can just appreciate that little space, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
My God. Man, is there anything that we haven't brought up that you've practiced over the years, Josh, that has helped you and, combat it a little? Or?
Similar to what you said, I got this from David Goggins. You know, he'll tell himself he has to do a 20-mile run when really it's only 15, but he'll just tell himself it's 20 all the time. So he's prepared for 20 mentally. And then when he hits close, he's only got 2 miles to 15 and it just feels so much easier. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So
that's good. That's good.
I'll do stuff like that. I've also noticed with breath work that when I was in extreme back pain, sometimes it really would be a 10. Like I would really feel like this is probably what it's like to be shot. But sometimes I would feel like that. But then with breath work, I would realize once I zoned in, like really zeroed in on that pain, it wasn't really as bad as I thought. It's just the pain was there and I just automatically equated it to the fucking worst pain possible. Right? So I was able to kind of dial it back in and realize, well, it's not a 10, it's more like a 7. Let's keep on this breath work. Let's see if we can get it down to a 5. You know what I mean? And then finally I drift off to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, man. You know,
it's amazing what your mind can do. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it's funny because where my mind just went, I'm sitting here in the studio looking at you, my brother, on a 70-some inch screen, realizing that even this moment is fleeting.
Yep.
Like one day we won't have this show. One day one of the three of us won't be here. You know? And that we don't know that day. Like
one day all
before.
of us won't be here. One day nobody will remember. At some point, you will be forgotten about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like it's inevitable. And that's
Right.
horribly scary to think about. But this is a weird thing with me facing death. And it's not like I'm the only one with that. I know there's people way worse off than me. But sometimes I think about how when I think that everybody's going to die, as weird as it sounds, it's sort of comforting. It's like, not that I want everybody to go, but everybody's going to eventually go.
Yeah.
Well, you want to feel a part of. You don't want to feel like this is happening to you. You know, you want
Yeah, like I'm. Everybody else lives infinitely, and they're just immortal, and I'm happy. I happen to not be. That would be horrible, you know. Because, like I've said on the past, in my thoughts, you know, because time is man-made. When I do die, hopefully it's when I'm 80, right?
Mm-hmm.
My family's already going to be there, whether they're alive on Earth or not.
Yeah.
Since time isn't real,
Right.
whatever it takes, kind of like quantum entanglement, for whatever it has to do to make my mind understand that that's comforting to me when I show up to, we'll call it heaven. My family's there, my loved ones are already there, and they're in the vision of how I need to see them.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, have you ever asked yourself, like, why do ghosts wear clothes? Right? Like, doesn't that seem crazy? Like, if you in the movies you see a ghost, it's like, well, why are their clothes visible?
Right.
Well, to me, it's similar. It's like, because that's what my mind needs to see to understand what's happening. Right. So that's kind of the quantum entanglement as well, like living in a simulation. I'm perceiving reality in a way that I need to see it to make sense. So when I pass away and I go to heaven and my family and my loved ones are there already welcoming me, even though that doesn't make sense, it makes sense in my reality at that point.
Ooh,
And it's comforting. It's very comforting.
And back to our oneness, you know?
Right.
How you saw in your darkest hour and you came out and told Nikki, like, yeah, I know there's dinosaurs passing, but I realize we're all connected. We're all are one, right?
Right. And I love it. I still talk to her about it. Like, does what I said make sense to you? And she said, everything you said completely makes sense. So even though I was out of it, I was, piercing the veil or whatever you want to call it. Subconsciously, at minimal, the way I was perceiving data, my matrix made sense to me, and it does make sense. Now, I don't have the answers, but I have the answers for me. And again, I keep saying comforting, but I kind of need that in my life right now. I need some comfort, you know? So,
yes.
Yeah.
Man, that's beautiful. And last but not least, the thought I always had, if someone was really going to end their life and they know it, then might as well do some wild, crazy shit before you go. If you're going to die anyways,
right.
Do some of the things, like, and hopefully use this for good, that you've always been too scared to do. Even if it's telling your father that and saying the words, I love you. Like, if you've never done that before you die, before you kill yourself, go love harder than you've ever loved. Or if you want to just have fun, go fucking do a heist, rob a bank, whatever.
Right.
Like, do something crazy before you end it, if you're really going to. What do you got to lose, right?
And maybe in that discovery of doing all that stuff, you'll realize, maybe not.
Right.
Maybe something amazing will happen. Maybe you'll take that risk that you were too afraid to take.
Yeah.
And then it pans out.
Yeah. And in that case, hopefully you're not in the bank surrounded by cops now realizing I don't want to do this.
Why did I do the heist? God damn it, Matt.
That's right.
Fucking tattoo guardians.
Man. But yeah, go love like you've never loved. Give everything you have away, like, and see what happens. What's the worst can happen? You checking out anyways. Fucking go bless the world. One last big shabam before you do. And like Josh said, your whole course may get altered.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
Go buy some cologne.
Yeah, that's right. Seasonal cologne.
I feel crazy. I'm buying some seasonal cologne.
That's right.
You do got me wanting to buy some cologne, though. I'm gonna start looking. Because every once in a while, I'll smell like someone will walk by at the mall or whatever, and I'm like, damn, that smells fucking amazing. But I don't want to be that creepy guy, right?
Right.
So,
People actually, strangers like it when you like sneak up on them and start sniffing all over them.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I do that too. Yeah. Especially their hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just grab a handful and pull down.
Right.
It happens to me
And
a
they'll
lot.
give you space to it,
Oh, I bet.
especially like if you just roll up in the wheelchair and you just
Right.
fucking yank her head down and start smelling her hair. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
I just want to go into a tattoo shop in my wheelchair just so I can be like, do y'all take roll-ins?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
And then just like peel out.
That's right. Middle finger flying in the
Right.
air. Oh, it's so good, man. It's so good. So good. Man, we're all just visitors here. And everyone dies, but not everyone truly lives. Right? And what an honor that we're all on this beautiful fucking clumsy journey together. None of us got it figured all out. And it's an honor going through it with all you guardians. And hopefully something about today's conversation was helpful, even if it was letting you know you're not alone. And even us three battle it. So what? Now what? Now what are we going to do? Now what are we going to be? And hopefully some of the tactics today inspired you to at least try them, whether it's journaling, meditation, breath work, exercise, nutrition, drink more water, right?
Bank robbing.
Yeah, bank robbing.
Heists.
Yeah, whatever. Hey, and write us to tell us about it. If it's a bank robbery, shoot us a little video.
Yeah.
Or write us once you get sentenced. We'll write back. I'm used
Right.
to it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Josh, so good to have you back again with us another week, brother.
I feel good.
Yeah. And I'd like to say, even this moment, doing the show with you guys, I've been guilty of taking it for granted. And I love both of
Same.
you. And with this microphone in my face right now and sitting here with you, brothers, I don't want to take this or you guys for granted. I love you guys.
We love,
Love you
you.
too.
Thank you all, Guardians. Oh, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Man, what time is it? 12:14 a.m. Matt, I don't know about you, but I like coffee.
You know I do every day, all day.
Man, and I could go for one right now. So our listeners, did you know that you can buy us a coffee?
For real?
Yeah. All
Why
they
would
gotta
they do that?
Well, if you like what we do and you support our show and you appreciate our content, you can just go and click that little button that our producer Mike puts in every show and buy us a coffee just to show your contribution that you appreciate what we do for you to
Are you
help
for
us
real?
out.
People can really buy us a coffee.
Totally.
I would be honored if you bought me a coffee.
And not only that, but we got a little spot. It's special for the VIP listeners. It's called Close Friends on Instagram. And on there, you can see some behind the scenes content. And when the cameras ain't running, seeing all the shit we'd be talking about each other.
Is that true, Mike? Damn, you guys, this is the first I've heard about either of these. So they can buy you or me a coffee.
Or Mr. Carlton.
Or Mr. Carlton. And, like, get a sneak peek behind the scenes.
Yeah.
By doing what again?
Fucking smashing that button.
Okay. What button you talking about? I want to smash the button.
It's the button on the fucking thing.
Do it. Just do it.
Absolutely demolish the button. But thanks for your time again, and we appreciate all our listeners.
Always.